to see how everybody, well, we can do introductions first. I don't think I met you, Anastasia. Maybe were you on the last meeting? Was this your first meeting? Well, glad you're joining us. So maybe we'll do introductions first, and then we can do a round robin of any project updates, system updates, things you would like to share with the group, and go from there. So I can jump in. I guess I'm Max Lyons, the Sustainable Food Systems Coordinator with CALI, which is the Kodiak Archipelago Leadership Institute. We're based in Kodiak. We work with the rural communities all around the island of Alutiiq heritage. And so helping with hydroponics, soil farming, kelp farming, but mainly hydroponics for the point of today's meeting. So I can pop it over to Brett.
Yeah, I'm Brett. I'm a shift lead here at Alaska Seeds of Change, located in Midtown Anchorage, and kind of just do a lot here, a lot of hydro work mainly, and do some like pickling workshops, some grindery stuff, some trying to get some more commercial kitchen work done here at Seeds, but that's kind of me. And guess I'll pass it on to Mel.
Sorry, it's loud in my office, so I'm just I get myself on mute for that reason. So I'm with Fairbanks Soil and Water Conservation District, and I do a lot of work with hydroponics here, with both schools as well as teaching community members about doing hydroponics, and we're working on a number of different projects to keep that going. I'm going to pass it off to Nikira.
Yeah, my name's Nikira. I work for Alaska Village Initiatives. So we kind of on the agriculture team, we do agriculture in rural Alaska, basically, wherever we can help and assist with a lot of the tribes and villages. And then in terms of hydroponics experience, we have some kind of research setups going on in our office. And of course, kind of a big interest throughout Alaska. So just and I've worked for a couple of hydroponics farms and stuff like that. So continued experimenting.
You got to pass it off to somebody.
Pass it off.
Pick.
Maybe Robbie. Has Robbie gone yet?
Hey everybody, I'm Robbie Townsend-Venel. I'm also with CALI, work with Max, doing lots of things. We just finished our big rural forum, looking, trying to continue to expand the farms, and also starting to look at a project in, sorry, I'm really tired. I'll just say I work with Max and we support our rural communities and we support our farms. Sorry, guys. And I'll pass it to Anastasia.
Hi, my name is Anastasia, and I also work in Fairbanks Soil and Water as their AmeriCorps Vista. So I work under Mel and was instructed to attend this meeting. So here I am.
I'm glad you could join us. Well, jumping in, if anybody, we can do round robin. If anybody does have any project updates they would like to share, I have a couple pictures too I can share from our recent trip over to the Kenai Practicum. We've been doing that. I've been a part of it the last 3 years, where we go in the fall and do a farm practicum and visit other farms on the Kenai. And we saw some really cool hydroponic systems, but I wanted to open it up to any updates or questions or hydroponic, system initiatives people would like to share with the group.
I'm so interested in hearing what you want to say, but it sounds like you want to go last. Is that right? Which I think would be fine. But I do have an interesting update for us. We'd been waiting on some funding through Lisa Murkowski's special appropriations for some systems that are going into the school district here in Fairbanks. And finally that funding has come down and we're waiting on finishing the contracts. And then we'll be starting to put some systems in a few more schools here. We have one big system at our native cultural high school, Effie Cochran, and it's going really well. And it was the impetus for us putting in the request for this funding with the school district. And the whole idea behind it is getting the food that the kids are growing into the school system, school lunch programs. So we're moving forward with that, and it's really exciting. And but we're still at the finishing up the contract stage with the school district, but I think we'll hopefully get it off the ground pretty soon and start working with our schools. We have about 3 schools. We're going to put a similar size system, which was about 320 plants in the system. That'll be producing pretty regularly, but we have to do training for the people who are going to management, and then we also have to do work and going to the schools and just helping manage the systems. So, but we're pretty excited about that because you hear constantly, well, the school district won't buy food that's grown by students because they have some weird notion it has to come off of a Cisco truck to be within their guidelines of nutrition. And we are breaking that barrier, I hope, and help that out, all those other programs that are looking to do that, with a good example of, no, you don't have to. Yes, you can get the school produced food into the school. So that we're pretty excited about that.
Have you run into any barriers yet with that health, or you're just crossing that bridge right now in terms of getting it into the lunches?
Well, thankfully we have a bit of a champion at the school district who, it was his idea to get this hydroponics in the school system in the first place. So he is going to the mat for us and making sure this happens, because of course there are people who sit behind a desk who want to follow all the federal guidelines, but can't really think outside the box as much as we would like them to. And thankfully he's there helping them to see the value of it, which is good. So that's what you need to make it happen, is someone who gets convinced that it tastes better. The kids not only produce the food, but they also are learning a whole lot about it while they're doing it, which is the best part. So that's an exciting update for us when it comes to hydroponics. And Anastasia, as our Vista, is going to be helping us put together some packet materials on when we want to go to some of the villages that have been requesting our help, how we can do it and then integrate it into their school districts. So it's pretty exciting, and we're pretty thrilled with it.
Are those
Anyway.
the SLAP systems, deep water culture? Last question.
Mostly, yeah. We found we had a NFT system in Effie, and it constantly kept blowing off the tubes and spilling the water all over the floor. So we switched to that because we don't have that same problem at all. It doesn't leak. It doesn't build up any pressure if a small piece of lettuce gets stuck in the tubing. And they're much happier with it now that it's not doing that as frequently. So I recommend it. It doesn't mean it's going to solve every solution, but it does work really well as far as ease of the kids using it. If something happens where they cannot get in there, like that's happening this week because all the kids are gone for hunting week, cultural week, and the principal left without giving my coworker a key to get in the building to manage the system. But the system will be fine because the plants are going to they're on a timer and they're sitting in water. So there's no chance of it spilling, and everything is managing itself basically. So 4 days without someone looking at it is not going to break the system, which is really good. And it's kind of what you want. So thanks for that question, Max.
No, that's
Yeah.
exciting. I'm curious to see what materials you compile if you're willing to share those, because I know we're trying to do similar stuff around Kodiak.
Yeah,
and-
that's what we are finishing up, the diagramming of the system and how it all works. But we've all been scrambling to get all the stuff done at the end of the summer. So hopefully the next time we meet, we'll have something I can share with you about that system, if you want to take a look at it and just compare it to what you guys are doing. It's all these different types of systems are really interesting to hear about how they work. So,
Yeah, well, I'll be interested in the health barriers too, because I know that's an obstacle one of the schools has faced here is they're growing in school. They can't really serve right now directly in the food, so it's more they'll do a activity after school where the kids can take it home. So they're still getting the lettuce, but it's not directly being served in the school lunches. Because
well,
of
so
the,
what's their holdup is the water or it's regulations on.
I think regulation and where it's being produced, but
See, this is where we need an advocate at the state level to hopefully work with the state school department and thinking about changing that. I mean, look at what they've been able to accomplish with advocacy for cottage foods. We can do that for schools. I think it will. We need somebody to be a vocal point, and I brought that up at the Food Policy Council meeting. As you know, there's lots of things that we could be advocating for, and I'd like to get this on our list of things they talk about on the state level. But we will see. Yes, Rob, what's your question?
So that was my question. I know that they've got a full-time advocate now at AFPC, so is this something that they could help out with?
Can be. I mean, this is something we just needs more than just me bringing it up. And you guys have that connection with the the business center grant, and this is definitely something that should be it could be part of that. Because you could have somebody working with the schools as part of their business and producing food, and that can be a small business plan too. So just a thought.
Yeah, we're not going to be working very closely with the center after this fiscal year. We are going to be providing support for the conference, but at this point, but I'll mention it to Robbie when I see her, bring it up.
I'll talk to her too. We'll see what happens. I mean, we can talk to the other folks that are involved in this and see whether they're willing to think about it too. If that's going to be the question.
yeah,
I think it's worthy.
definitely. We've been using the term farm in school. That's our whole goal is it's good to connect the farms to school, but yeah, there's a lot that kids
Ooh.
can just farm in school. And if they could grow at least, a salad a week or something and start, or a salad a month, have a simple baseline and go from there. Some
Well,
tomato.
I mean, there's great examples of this already when you're talking about like the Prince of Wales school, the Southeast Island School District, what they did with those kids growing and getting it integrated into not just the schools, but into the community. And they learned about businesses and they learned about what it takes to sell the produce that you were growing. I don't know how much more how they're still doing it, but because the big main force behind that retired, um, it'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah. Does anybody else have questions for Mel or any updates on what's happening at Seeds of Change or ABI?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could talk about what we've been doing here. I think lately we've been like kind of just preparing for like the fall and the winter, just preparing our outdoor garden. I think one of the biggest things we've been doing is just trying to get people to be able to buy produce directly from us and be able to come pick it up here at our greenhouse. I think we want to try to shoot to get this started next month, and I've kind of been putting in a lot of work of just getting like the prices and updating the website, getting pictures, and just like planning how this would like go, like when would people come pick up, and kind of just all that basically. Yeah,
Are you gonna do it like a CSA, Brett, or are you gonna what's the plan?
not really like a CSA, maybe just like we're using Square, so people just go on to our website, purchase this or pick up, and just come pick it up, and kind of just like just another place people can buy, just like an at-home market essentially.
Well, is that kind of what Salt and Soil did in Juneau? Where they
Um,
had, I think they had it like an online, you can order it and then go pick it up, if I remember correctly. They may have changed the way they did it, but that was like, and the Homer Food Hub did it that way too. I think they put up what was available and then you ordered it and picked it up at a location.
Yeah, it sounds like we're just doing what they did essentially. I didn't like look into who else does this. It was kind of just pushed onto my plate of, hey, work on this. So I'm kind of just working on it. And some other things I've been doing is just like updating our workshops that we offer, just like pickling and kimchi. Kelly at King Tech asked for a Thai basil bok choy kimchi workshop, which is something we haven't offered, but I've been like working on how would that go? What do we need? Updating presentations. And that's kind of like the main things I've personally been doing here at Seeds. Um, we haven't had much big changes. We're just kind of preparing for the winter essentially. Mm,
Well, let us know if reach out to me, or I can connect you with our food hub coordinator if you do have any questions. She's going up to, we do distribution every Wednesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. near a local grocery store just to make it more convenient for some people, but that's the idea is they order a week ahead of time. So ordering is open like Monday through or Friday through Monday, and
Yeah.
then pick it all on Tuesday and then go distribute on Wednesday. And it's been popular. One thing on that too, we've found to be very successful is trying to sign people up for a subscription. So if you can get people to say they want, 1 or 2 bags of lettuce, maybe every week or every other week, and then you just send them an email reminder. They don't have to worry about going online and ordering every single week. It's just
Yeah.
to worry about.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, our main distributor, Arctic Harvest Deliveries, they kind of do what you mentioned of having people order like week before, a couple days before. We harvest it Monday or Tuesday, and then Arctic Harvest Deliveries will pick it up and either deliver it to people or have them pick it up as well. The subscription service, that sounds like something we haven't talked about here.
Well, I know that Anchorage Greens does a subscription service.
Yeah.
So they get a bin as part of their subscription and then they just come and pick out what's available. Have you gone in there to see what he does? They do?
We went there as a team to get a tour to talk about like nutrients and kind of how he runs things. We didn't get too much knowledge about like his how he sells things. We just know he has like that storefront,
Yeah.
and that's kind of all I really know.
Well, I was a couple of Novembers ago that I went there to see it, and he has people who sign up and then he has different days for people to come. And then he has a board and he says, you get this amount of stuff for your subscription. There's various rates that he offers. And then you come with your bin and you pick what he has available.
Yeah.
So they get on the spot what they need rather than ordering it ahead of time. They can actually see it. So that's another way to do it. Just a thought.
Yeah.
I believe that's how he does it. So, like he lists it all out and he has a counter and people can see it behind the counter. If they want to see it up close, he brings it close to them. They don't go and pick it out themselves. They have staff that does that.
Yeah.
So there's limited issue with some like a whole bunch of people standing around the produce.
Yeah.
They have it really nicely set up that way. That's what I remember seeing, and I have pictures of this. And it was during COVID, so they had big plastic barriers. I don't think they have those anymore, but it's just and you guys could do that pretty easily. You could have them come in that one spot, have a whiteboard with what's available that day, and they bring their bins. But not, I don't know whether he supplied the bins or he told them what to buy and they went and bought it. That's a good question you could ask, Trevor, if you have chance. Might be
That's
I
a
don't
good
know.
idea.
A different way to do it. But
Yeah.
I like that you're thinking about this, Brett. This is great. A great way to get you guys some good money from what you're doing.
Yeah, and to be known too. More
Yeah.
people know about us.
That is true.
Yeah, and I have them listed down. Hopefully we can get them to join us in the next couple months and maybe talk about production, distribution, marketing.
That would be pretty cool.
That's Alaska or Anchorage Greens, correct?
Anchorage Greens, yeah.
Trevor.
He actually started in Juneau and his first business was Juneau Greens, which is still going. And then he moved to Anchorage and started another one, which was the Anchorage Greens. But when I did an agriculture in the classroom class when he was just starting Anchorage Juneau Greens, and they had just done their first market, and they sold out of all their hydroponic basil like within 30 minutes. They they thought it was going to take them a while, and there was such a desire for it that they just sold out so quickly. And obviously it kept being a need because they're still going, and he moved on to Anchorage and started it there. So a good business model he has.
Yeah, that sounds like it. It's good to hear it's still going too down in Juneau. There's a lot of operations I feel like that close up too after a couple years, so it's always nice when they're continuing on.
Yeah, that is true. It's a lot of work being a farmer. Think you know that, Brett. It's hard work. Nikira, can you give us an update on what your guys are working on?
Sure. I don't have too much new. We're growing peppers in our lettuce grow, vertical tower, which is going well. Probably too well. They're a little bushy. And then we have in our NFT systems, we have basil and tomatoes still going. And we've harvested off the basil 3 times maybe by now, just to kind of keep it at the same height as the tomatoes, and it's going really well. We got to use it. We helped host a conference last week, so they used that in one of the meals that they prepared for everybody. So that was fun. Yeah, not a whole lot new.
You have any issues with the pepper pollination? It's been okay.
I have been pollinating by hand, just because there's just the one tower. It seems to be going okay. I mean, there's definitely some blossoms dropping that didn't get pollinated, but there's also like a lot of blossoms. So it could be better, but it's successful so far, I would say. We have 6 different varieties. A couple of them are local from the local seed companies. Yeah, and all of them have peppers so far. They're little, but
What method are you using, Nikira, to do your pollination? Paintbrush?
paintbrush,
Q-tip? Okay.
paintbrush, just paintbrushing them, and you can see the pollen drop. I mean, you could probably just shake them, and I suspect they'd also go like that. I will say though, as just an observation, the tomatoes, and I don't know if it's because I was more vigilantly pollinating because it's right next to me, but the tomatoes set fruit a lot better in this vertical than they do in the NFT. So
Do you have any
not
fans
well
that are
tested. What's
around?
that?
Any fans blowing or air movement or not necessarily?
The fans are in the NFT, not in here, which it needs it, but
Yeah. I just know some of our farms that don't pollinate at all. Yeah, they just have a nice swivel fan that sits there and blows it and they get
yeah. There are fans that come down from the top on the NFT cabinets, but
very cool. Well, I can jump into some pictures and show and tell. Unless you have any questions, Anastasia, or updates before we get going. Let me share one real quick that I just thought of too, because I just got my first this is my first zucchini I just harvested in my living room. Beautiful zucchini. I'm a big fan of just 5-gallon buckets with a little air stone in there, and can grow zucchinis, peppers, tomatoes, all sorts of things. It seems to go pretty well. The one thing I do is drill another hole, and I have a little siphon pump. It makes water exchange a lot easier versus having to try to lift the lid up and slide another bucket out and stuff. Go ahead.
Can I share something? One of my guys that I work with at one of our mental health drop-ins did it where he cut a hole with his hole saw, and then he took a 2-liter soda bottle and he cut it as a funnel and then used the cap on the bottom. And then it was also easier to put more water in that way, that you didn't have to try to get it in with a watering can and it spills over on the sides. The funnel worked really nice. Just a suggestion on
Oh, I
this.
might need to. I love these systems, but you got to make sure you know how to exchange water easily, because that's the most difficult part. And when the plants get bigger too, and you're trying to squeeze a little hose in there, watering can.
Yeah, I loved his idea with the using the soda bottle funnel, because the cap screwed up on the bottom and it kept it from moving around,
Oh
which
yeah,
is really cool.
it's a really good idea. And hopefully it keeps producing. I know one of the farms, he grew up beautiful. It just the zucchini just kept growing up, and the little zucchinis would pop out the side and trims off the leaves and got this nice bush. So I'm hoping to follow in his footsteps. But I'll share, we were over on the Kenai about a month ago, the 3rd week of August. And we went up to Arnold Family Farms in Sterling, near Kenai, Soldotna. And I was I think he's in his 70s or maybe close to 80, and just small farm, production farm, really big into reusing, repurposing things. And he does outdoor hydroponics in his high tunnels. So got him on the agenda, and we went up there, and I think it was one of the highlights of the trips for me. Didn't really know what to expect and didn't really meet anybody who had been up there before. He was a little intimidated because we were going to some other big farms, more well known. He's like, I don't know if you guys are really going to appreciate this, but it was perfect for especially the more remote rural setting, the villages we're working in and repurposing. So I can share some of the things that stood out. Are you guys able to see the picture, Sharon? Okay. Yeah, so these are his cucumbers in the back. You can see just trellising up, large netting. And one thing he does, which is interesting, is he has a heater that's powered off of used cooking oil. So he collects, fry oil from local restaurants and such. And his big thing isn't necessarily extending the season, but reducing the temperature fluctuations at night. And he's found that if you can keep the temperature pretty consistent from day to night, that really helps the plants. So I thought that was interesting. Whenever I think of heating greenhouses, and especially high tunnels, it doesn't make much sense. But if you can, reduce the amount of the temperature fluctuation from day to night, he thinks that's one of the keys to his successes with his different crops. So I thought that was interesting. And there's Mike Arnold down there. This is our Luktic grown team, so we were able to get a couple farmers from each community to join us. So you can see he's got cucumbers going here, and these are his tomatoes here in the middle, all being trellised up with the little, what do they call them? Tomahawks, I think is the name for those. Where you just wrap the hooks around, and you can slowly extend them and clip your vining crops to those. But I will fast forward a couple. Or go ahead, Melissa.
What's the media that he uses? Is he doing in buckets, in hydroponics soil? What's he doing?
Pea
Just out of
gravel,
curiosity.
I think.
Pea gravel. Okay.
Yeah. Which is cool too,
Cool.
because you can just keep reusing that, I believe, clean it. I would maybe go with the clay pebbles, because pea gravel is pretty small, but it seems to work well for him. And I have a closer, these are his beautiful strawberry beds. These aren't hydroponics, but had to get a picture. But there's a good, so these, you can see the peppers. And this is what I wanted to share with everybody, because it's a unique system. I think it's One of the best bucket systems I've come across because seems pretty simple. Not a lot of room for tubes and whatnot to get clogged. So essentially what happens is he has a pump that is set on a timer and it fills up all these buckets. He's timed it so he knows how long the pump needs to run for. And then it drains and pumps it all back in. So he does that, I want to say 2 times a day. I would have to confirm how many times he floods it and drains it. But I really like this system because we're doing some Dutch buckets right now and they're working pretty well, but the little emitter tubes which go into the buckets, our Dutch buckets, they get irrigated through the top through a little tube and then they drain through the bottom. But over time, those little tubes clog up or the flow rate isn't right. So this seems really simple. He's just sealed these all in, plumbed them in, and they just flood and drain a couple times a day. And that's how he does his cucumbers, his peppers, his tomatoes, everything is set up this way. And pea gravel is in there as well for the media. So I might have to invite him to join a call too if he's free to discuss more in detail his methodologies, but just wanted to share this with you guys because it was
Please tell him. We would love to have him join us and share his ideas on this. I think it would be really cool. Always good to see new systems.
Yeah, and relatively simple. You know, when we was talking about the last system that I have with the difficulty of exchanging water and whatnot.
Sorry
he is
about interrupting. I
the
thought you
reservoir.
should see this.
So he just refills the reservoir and then that feeds his tank. So he's not worried about refilling each of these buckets and trying to navigate that challenge.
How long does he do this till? Or is he doing it year round? Is he sticking with the season?
I think it's
end of
easy.
the season?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I don't think he's really using that heater to extend the season. It's more just to maintain temperature.
Yeah, we had somebody doing it similar up here in a greenhouse that was out towards Chena Hot Springs, but he got shut down by the owner, and so he stopped. But he was using clay balls and hydroponic soil, which is like basically just inert soil, too, in the buckets, just a little bit more. Which people were like, "That's soil," and he was like, "Not really." Because all the nutrient came from the water that was going in. So
Mhm.
it was a
Okay.
similar setup, but interesting.
Yeah, this is his soil greenhouse, but I know we've had one farm here that actually they had the little, similar to the buckets I'm growing in, the root spa bubble buckets, and he plumbed up a similar system to this where it irrigates through the top, drains through the bottom, but just trying to make it easy to really not have anything clog and not have to try to deal with replacing a bunch of individual buckets. I think are 2 challenges I've seen people run into. I don't think I have any more good ones. Let me see. One other interesting thing, and he could talk about this. He started playing around with a weed tea. I think just throwing a bunch of buckets or a bunch of weeds into a bucket of water, letting it steep. And he stuck his little EC meter in there and was getting a reading. I didn't understand that because I thought EC measured salts and I didn't know how much, I guess all, things have salts in it, but he was actually growing. He's going to experiment more next season, but he was growing, I think, a tomato and cucumber off of his weed tea, organic hydroponic solution. So it would be interesting to explore that more. I think he did some lettuce too. And one of the keys to success is I think he was growing in rain gutters with the pea gravel, and that pea gravel may provide surface area for beneficial microbes to grow on. So they were able to break down that organic matter. So we'll have to pick his brain more, but that was interesting that I know we're all interested in how can we create our own nutrients, and we're talking with Mike and he's already doing it and having some success and just playing around. So I know he wasn't able to get into it as much this season just because time got away from him, but next year I think he's trying to do a little bit more, set some more space aside for that.
Sounds like we need him to do a couple of presentations.
Yeah, we'll have to give them up.
Be really good. If he's willing.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure he would be. Just got to make sure you can jump on Zoom, navigate that, or maybe call in or something. We can pick his brain over the phone or through Zoom. And the one other thing I can show you guys too. So we did stop by, and we'll reach out to Whistle Hill. Or they have the Fresh 365. They're kind of growing a whole compound up there where they got their store, the restaurant, the solar, the food production, but we toured their food production area. So they have a 40-foot connex where they're doing mushroom cultivation, and it's divided up into 3 sections. So the first section, I believe I have a picture right here, is where they sterilize their substrate, mix everything together. And then the second section is where they have the bags growing and the mycelium, the fungus is eating the food. And then the third back section is controlled humidity and temperature where the little mushrooms are actually fruiting. And I'll have to verify, but I think it was a couple 100 pounds a week they're cranking out of the system, which was incredible.
I got a funny question,
Yeah.
Max. Are they, because one of the things I learned about mushroom growing from our mushroom guy that grows for the farmer's market here, he has a Boreal Woods mushroom farm, and he got into it as something for his family to do during COVID.
Mhm.
And now like it's a huge production facility. But one of the things he mentioned was that it growing mushrooms in that kind of a space, they give off huge amounts of carbon dioxide. And do they have it connected to the other grow system? Because I know when I saw his system, he was using tanked carbon dioxide in
Okay.
their veggie growing. But wouldn't that make a really cool thing to connect the two and have the excess carbon dioxide that's coming off the mushrooms reduce the cost that they have for how much they have to buy carbon dioxide tanks? Do you know if they're doing that or
I
not?
don't know if they are, but yeah, ideally you could maybe plumb this into the I think you'd want it to go, they have some filtration because they're giving off a lot of spores too.
Right.
Put it into their plant grow operation and vice versa. Because
That would
mushrooms
be,
take in oxygen, yeah, give off CO2, and then the plants take in CO2 and give off oxygen.
but what an interesting concept though.
And they're
Those
right
are
next to
really
each other.
sustainable, really
Yeah.
sustainable systems working
So
together.
I think right now it's just getting ventilated outside.
Hmm.
But if we can get them on, we'll have to pick their brains on that possibility.
I would love to ask him that question too. Yeah.
And they also had this cool little store. They had a little, I don't know, maybe a 10 by 10 little connex attached where it's their little storefront where you can get either the fresh mushrooms, the dried mushrooms, and then they shared some of their produce too. And you can see on the whiteboard, like you were mentioning to Brett, the menu of what they have available and their prices. So that's kind of just open. People can pop in throughout the day, pick up whatever veggies are available. And I think they mainly supply their restaurant on the property as well. But it was a really neat spot to check out. In terms of hydroponics, they had 2 Connex units. The first one I think is similar to I want to say Freight Farms, or there's a couple big companies out there that are creating containerized hydroponic systems, vertical ones, and it was grown in like a foam insert almost. So you have a wall of foam and you plug the plants in throughout, and then the water trickles down. And all these panels actually slide over. You can see the lights actually come down from the ceiling and then shine that on. The second system that they got, and their grower said he actually prefers the first system. It has all these little tubes that connect up vertically, and I'll show you guys a picture here in a second. This was their little nursery area, nice and controlled environment. This is their second system, which is similar in terms of vertical, with all these little tubes, but I think just in terms of the maintenance and the work and cleaning all those little pieces, the first system is much simpler, that it's just one column. You pull out the foam. I think you guys are using this at Alaska Seeds of Change, right, Brett? You guys got the first system with that. What's your grow media?
We have like a little recycled plastic mesh media with a
Yeah.
little wicking strip.
And it's just one long strip that you pull out, right? And you clean that. Right to the end of the-
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're both producing well and good systems, but it was interesting to hear his perspectives on which system he appreciated more. Yeah, you could see similar lights are from the side, and it's just a bunch of it's like a bunch of little towers, tower gardens just all next to each other on a wall. But I can't imagine, yeah, having to clean each of these little tubes and take them apart, versus just having one nice vertical rain gutter with a single slab of grow media. But they're cranking out a lot of veg in these two systems, and I need to show some of our growers these pictures too of just how strong those starts look too. Because that's something that I've learned more and more. The stronger the start you put in, the quicker the plant will grow, the stronger it'll grow, versus putting in a little sprout that has just popped out of the seed. It'll sit there for a while until that taproot has developed. So that was something else that stood out to us. This was their old train cars and stuff too, where they're at. But just wanted to share those two visits with you because they definitely tied into what we're talking about here and some interesting ways of growing. Does anybody have any other questions or comments? And we can reach out to both of them to see if they would be willing to join a future meeting this coming fall and winter. We can pick their brains more and dive in.
Yeah, I have a question, Max. Did you get any deeper information on the solar panel unit that they're using?
Yeah, we did get some information. Unfortunately, their solar expert wasn't on the property to answer some technical questions. But I believe I can share this one. This whole back array of panels, I would have to get a number of how much, but that is for their containers. So it's a pretty large solar array, but they are able to produce enough energy on hand to cover the cost of their grow units. The mushroom units really don't take much because mushrooms don't need as much light. They don't photosynthesize like plants do. It's more the temperature and humidity. My guess would be most of this is going towards the grow lights. I think those are some of the most energy intensive portions of a grow system. So can try to get the specifics of how big the array was and how much their energy consumption was, because those questions did come up, but he wasn't able to answer it during the time of the tour.
And I believe it was Ian who told me that the way the array is set up, that it can also collect reflective light off of the snow. Is that correct?
Yeah, so these are newer panels, or I think they're called bifacial panels. So they're collecting light off of both sides. So during the winter time, when you got snow here, you get a nice reflection, and they're able to harvest light off of this backside as well. And then I don't think I had a good picture, but that's a good picture of the panels. They're putting all their spent substrate from growing mushrooms. They're making a nice big patch here and tilling it in, and then they're gonna grow potatoes in between the solar. So really trying to utilize all the space that they have available and recycle the materials or repurpose them from one system.
Our mushroom farm is giving the cubes away to farmers to use for compost.
Oh, yeah.
They can just drive up a truck and load up and put it in there, which is great for our community because we are lacking in compost.
Yeah.
So,
Just need more compost. I'm curious too if that's maybe a good grow media substrate for hydroponics. Maybe we could use spent mushroom substrate or something to I don't know if the roots would be able to break out and how it would hold up sitting in water for 4 to 6 weeks, but might be
that's an interesting idea. I wonder if any of the microbes might cause problems, though.
Yeah, that's what I didn't
This
know.
is odd.
But yeah, those are some of the highlights as they relate to hydroponics and energy. And we're running some numbers too to see what it's gonna take for our small we have some small NFT cabinet systems. I think they grow about 115 plants, and we're gonna try to get some solar panels to produce that. And so I'll share that with you guys of how big of a solar panel we need for the energy production to equal the consumption of those systems.
Yeah, I would be interested in the cost of that solar array.
Mhm.
You know, what's the payback period for it? That type of thing. It was one of the main reasons I was interested in you guys going to Whistle Stop was that they're one of the few farms I know that seem to be successfully using solar.
Yeah, we toured a winery too, Bear Creek Winery in Homer, and they have solar. I think their payback period was 3 to 5 years, so it was pretty quick. And that was also when currently there's the REAP program, Renewable Energy for America, and they were only doing a 25% cost they would help cover reimburse. Now it's up to 50%. So I think the payback period is even quicker now. And the solar technology, I mean, each year it's getting so much better in the amount of light that it can capture and how it's capturing light. So definitely worth looking into.
Yeah, one of our greenhouses up here who had huge energy bills in the spring. The guy was like, "Hey, guess how much I had paid in electricity last month," which was like his starting season. He goes, "Actually, GVA paid me $350
Wow.
because he had generated so much that it didn't cost him anything, and they had to pay him for the excess energy generated. So it's a good deal, especially for the growers, because that was one of his biggest costs. So
Mhm.
interesting stuff.